Hello, my name is Kristina Johnson. This is my presentation for my Six Sigma project, Reduce Body Weight by 10%. I will start with a short introduction. I found some interesting facts around body weight when researching this topic. According to the National Center for Health Statistics, 73.6% of adults over the age of 20 are considered overweight. This data was collected back in 2018, and unfortunately there are many opinions this number will continue to rise. There are many negatives if you're overweight. If you're overweight, you're at higher risk for having a serious health condition. This can be diabetes, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, strokes, and cancer, just to name a few. People who are overweight and also suffer from serious health conditions tend to have higher out-of-pocket costs for healthcare. These costs can be associated with the need for medications, treatments, and procedures. The positive is that you can reduce these risks by living a healthier lifestyle and managing your weight. And actually, many companies are encouraging their employees to maintain a healthy body weight by offering financial incentives if they meet certain goals each year. This brings us to the first phase of Six Sigma, which is to define the problem. My experiment was to focus on myself. However, this can be used by other people who are interested in following this method to lose weight. At the beginning of the experiment, I weighed a little over 150 pounds, which is way too heavy for my height and body frame. I moved to the overweight section when looking at the charts that categorize your body based on height and weight. My goal weight really should be 135 pounds. This first became a problem for me about a year ago. After Christmas, my eating habits had changed. I was still eating my salads and light meals during the week, but I found myself indulging in sweets late at night and on the weekends. It became like a ritual for me after I would eat, and before I would go to bed, I would grab a dessert. And on the weekends, I would also go out to eat at the restaurants with my family, and sometimes we would share desserts. And before you know it, things got way out of hand and my weight increased. Being healthy is important to me because my mom passed away back in 2017 from complications with diabetes and congestive heart failure. She was a smoker and also had challenges with her weight. She was considered obese and struggled with her weight most of her life. She tried various weight loss programs from Weight Watchers to pre-made meals, and sometimes she would lose the weight, but it would eventually come back. This leads me to the next question around how will I lose the weight? I actually listened to a podcast by a scientist who talked about the most effective way to lose weight was to reduce added sugar. He talked about how your body will use sugar found in your bloodstream as the first source for fuel. After this is depleted, your body will burn stored fat as the next energy source. He mentioned how many people make the mistake of only focusing on cutting calories, which can make you skinny fat. This is where your body is slender, but you really don't have any muscle definition because your body will eat the muscle and you will feel weak. Many people have followed a keto diet to lose weight, which also cuts carbs, but the method I chose to use will focus solely on the amount of added sugars. This will allow me to feel like I can still select items I want to eat by looking at the nutrients and tracking sugars. I also spent more time researching articles on what the recommendation is for how much sugar someone should consume. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommends Americans 2 years old and older keep their intake of added sugars to less than 10% of their total daily calories. This is how I formulated my weight loss goals. A healthy weight for my height is 135 pounds. This would mean I would need to lose 15 pounds, which is approximately 10% of my body weight. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention state that people with gradual, steady weight loss, about 1 to 2 pounds per week, are more likely to keep the weight off than people that lose weight quickly. This helped me to determine the time frame should be 15 weeks to lose the 15 pounds. The key performance indicators that will be measured in this experiment are body weight in pounds, calories, and sugar in grams. I will discuss how the weight loss plan was formulated in the Implement section of this presentation. Measure. I performed weekly observations over the 15-week time period. I used a mobile app on my phone to track the calories and the sugar I consumed for each meal during the 7-day week. I started the plan in August when the kids went back to school, and the week started on Sunday and ended on Saturdays. I weighed myself each Saturday morning when I woke up and before I consumed any food. Consistent weigh-in practices are imperative. This is an extract of the data from my mobile app, You can see how the calories, sugar, and weight were calculated for each observation. When I began my weight loss plan, the amount of calories I consumed and sugar were a little higher than I thought. I was able to make some adjustments each week to fit more in the set amount of sugars I wanted to target. Over the 15 weeks, I was happy to see my weight come down. When I analyzed the data, you can see a downward trend when viewing the sugar and weight decrease chart over the 15-week time period. I also used the data to calculate a regression table. The information in a regression table can be used to predict results based on the information collected in the data sample. When viewing the regression table, I highlighted some of the outputs and will explain what each area means. The sugar coefficient shows 0.39883,137, which means for every 1 gram of sugar reduced, it would result in approximately 0.39 pounds of weight loss. The p-value for the sugar variable was 3.65881E-05, which is less than 0.05 or 95% confidence level. This indicates a significant probability the risk is low for this to not have any effect on weight loss. The other statistical measure to review from this data analysis is the adjusted R-squared number, which indicates 78% of the data fits the linear model. This translates to 78% of the data shows how well this model explains the data gathered during the observation period. The higher the percentage in the adjusted R-squared field, the better the data can be used to predict results. I also performed a paired sample t-test using the dependent variable weight to see if there is statistical evidence that shows making the dietary change was effective. I calculated my weight from 15 different observations before I implemented the changes to my diet, which occurred earlier in 2023, and used the 15 observations after I made the changes to my diet. The results from my t-test shows a p-value of 2.42001E-08, which is less than the standard significance level of 0.05. This indicates there is a significant statistical difference in the mean weights after I made the change to reduce my sugar intake. The data supports that reducing my sugar intake was an effective way to lose weight. Okay, now we're circling back to the details on how I implemented my experiment. I look at losing weight in two different phases. Phase 1 consists of designing a plan to lose weight and implementing it to achieve your target goal weight. Phase 2 will focus on how to maintain your goal weight and is part of the control step in Six Sigma. In Phase 1, the first step to perform is discovery. This is where you'll look up foods you eat to find their nutritional value. This will provide you with insight on what the serving size is, how many calories are associated with a serving, and how many grams of sugar are in each serving. During the discovery phase, I was surprised to see how many grams of sugar were in the foods I assumed were healthy. When you spend the time evaluating sugar content, you will see there are hidden sugars in many pre-prepped foods. Here's where you can make substitutions and opt for foods that are lower in sugar or have no sugar. You will need this to formulate an eating plan for the week, which is the next step to design your meal plan. Step 2 is to design your meal plan that will fit your caloric intake and grams of sugar. The best method is to plan out your meals ahead of time for the week. Performing this activity will help you understand how many calories and grams of sugar are in each meal. You'll want to target foods that will add up to about 1,200 to 1,400 calories a day. The total grams of sugar for the day should be less than 10 grams based on this caloric consumption. Once you determine what meals you'll eat each day, construct a grocery list. Make a commitment to only buy foods on your grocery list and do not purchase foods on a whim. I typically eat the same meal for lunches and dinners during the week, so putting together this meal plan is essential for me to stay on track. I go to the grocery store on Saturdays and use Sundays for meal preparation. This ensures all my meals are cooked and proportioned out for each week. Understanding what you're consuming and how much you are consuming is vital to your weight loss journey. Step 3, build. Find an application or way to track your progress. Data and measurements are imperative to understand what is contributing to success and what you need to adjust. I identified three key performance indicators I am tracking, which are caloric intake, sugar, and weight. There are mobile apps you can use to track this type of information, or you can use a spreadsheet. In my implementation, the mobile application worked the best for me to input key performance indicators for each meal and the once-a-week weigh-ins. The other advantage of the mobile app is the visibility concerning your progress each week. You can set up reminders, look at daily progress, or view a chart each week to see how you're performing. Step 4, build. Establish a time frame to complete your goal. For my experiment, I chose 15 weeks to lose 10% of my body weight. This equates to 1 pound a week for the 15-week time frame. Establishing milestones will also help you go through the process. I set up 3 milestones which occurred when I would hit the 5-pound mark for weight loss. I chose to weigh myself on Saturdays in the morning before I would eat any meals for the day. Establishing a specific day and time will help you create a more consistent approach and baseline for measurements. The final step in phase 1 is to execute your weight loss plan. Each week, review your weight to see if you met the target weight. If you did not, review your eating plan to determine what adjustments may need to be made to reduce more calories or grams of sugar. The final step in Six Sigma is control. This is what I consider phase 2 for maintaining your weight loss. One of the most important aspects to maintain your weight is continuous measurement. It is a good way to gauge whether your weight has stayed the same or if it's starting to drift. One thing to consider is small changes in your weight are completely normal and expected according to an article posted by Henry Ford Health. In the article, it states that body weight can shift throughout the week and even during the day. In fact, an average adult can lose or gain 2 to 8 pounds over the course of a few days. This is why it will be essential to establish a regular cadence to check your weight. I plan to continue to weigh myself once a week on Saturdays using the same routine I followed in phase 1. The other critical component in the control phase is establishing limits and control parameters when you are managing your weight. According to the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, estimated calorie needs for adult women can range from 1,600 to 2,400 calories per day. This range is recommended for women who want to maintain their weight and will depend on age and fitness activity. I set my control parameters, which are outlined in the figure shown. I set not to exceed limits, but my target goals for calories, sugar, and weight, and also a not to go below limit. It is important to monitor the key performance indicators so you can take action if you start to see any areas shift. If my calories, sugar, or weight start to shift to the limits set in the table, it will trigger an immediate pause. This pause will be in place to look closely at the calories and the grams of sugar I consumed over the past week. I should be able to quickly identify if my eating was outside of the caloric intake and sugar I normally consume. This will invoke changes to my meal plan, and either I will reduce or increase my calories and sugar to get back to my target numbers. If I'm not sure why there is deviation, the corrective action plan will be to go back to manually tracking the calories and sugar grams consumed for every meal each week. This will need to be done to closely monitor what is consumed for each meal. If my caloric intake and grams of sugar remain the same, it may signal the time to reassess other variables that were not tracked in my initial experiment, such as exercise, sleep, and medications to determine if any other changes should be made. The data from the experiment supports my hypothesis that reducing sugar will result in weight loss. The Six Sigma process provides the structure to monitor the controls I established to maintain my weight and to look for opportunities to make improvements. I listed the references that were used for my final paper and presentation. Thank you.